Whis finally explains why Beerus never dared to kill Goku, not even in their first fight. When Beerus, the god of destruction of Universe 7, awoke from his long slumber, he had a strange premonition. A powerful being who bore the title of Super Saiyan God would emerge to challenge him. This prophecy marked the beginning of one of the most intriguing relationships in Dragon Ball Super, not only because of the titanic fight that followed, but because of the profound changes it caused in Beerus and the way he viewed Goku, a mere mortal who dared to face a god. From the beginning, Beerus showed himself to be superior in every way, a being feared even by other gods, capable of erasing entire planets with the snap of a finger, and whose very name struck terror in the hearts of gods and mortals alike. He was arrogant, ruthless, and driven by whims. Goku, on the other hand, was always the opposite, innocent, friendly, driven by the pure desire to become stronger and face worthy opponents. The collision between these two very different personalities seemed destined for a tragic end. But the unexpected happened. With the help of the Dragon Balls and his allies, Goku managed to awaken the Super Saiyan God form, a state that transcended the traditional limits of Saiyan warriors. During the fight with Beerus, even with the disparity in power still present, Goku displayed something that few beings were able to demonstrate when facing a god of destruction: persistence. He not only withstood blows that would destroy planets, but he also continued fighting even after losing his divine form, sustained only by the remaining energy absorbed into his body. It was there that the first sign of Beerus' respect for Goku emerged. Instead of annihilating the Earth as he had promised, Beerus spared the planet. Initially, he tried to disguise his decision, saying that he would give up because of food or because he was tired, but Whis, his assistant and master, let slip the real reason. Beerus recognized Goku's potential, and not only that, he admired her determination and courage to challenge him, even though she knew she wouldn't win. This respect was not immediate or absolute. Beerus continued to treat Goku with a certain disdain, mocking his naivety and careless behavior. However, over time, this relationship evolved. Beerus began to accept Goku's presence, to value his opinions, and, most surprisingly, to allow him to train with Whis, a privilege rarely granted to mortals. This was a milestone. The god of destruction, accustomed to being worshipped or feared, was now, albeit in a veiled way, investing in the growth of a mortal. It is important to note that for Beerus, respect is not given by victory or absolute power, but rather by something rarer and more precious: the essence of the warrior. Goku proved himself not only to be strong, but also someone who always seeks to grow, even in the face of impossibilities. Someone who does not carry hatred, greed, or destructive ambition. He fights for pleasure, for challenge, for overcoming. This is fascinating for a being like Beerus, who has seen countless worlds and civilizations succumb to moral weakness. The fight on the northern planet not only changed Beerus' view of Goku, but also of mortals in general. He, who had previously seen them as disposable beings, began to realize that there are exceptions, that perhaps Universe 7 still has something of value to offer. Goku became an anomaly in Beerus' eyes, a mortal who could inspire even a god. Other important moments reinforced this respect. During the Tournament of Power, even without openly expressing it, Beerus was thrilled with Goku's feats. When he mastered Ultra Instinct for the first time, Beerus was stunned. He, a god of destruction, was still struggling to fully master this technique, while Goku, a warrior who started from scratch, was touching something that even the gods considered divine. This restrained admiration was clear when Beerus shouted with joy as he watched Goku stand in the ring in his complete Ultra Instinct form facing Jiren. It was one of the few times that the pride of a god gave way to genuine enthusiasm. There was no more mockery, there was anticipation, there was excitement. Beerus wasn't just rooting for a victory, he was rooting for Goku. But perhaps the most symbolic moment of this transformation was when Goku refused to become a god of destruction. Even faced with the possibility of unlimited power, he preferred to follow his own path. Beerus, instead of punishing him or considering him foolish, simply accepted it. Perhaps because he understood deep down that this was Goku's true value. He does not bow to authority or seek power for status. He is free, and this freedom is what makes him as dangerous as he is admirable. Today, Beerus still mocks Goku, teases him, feigns indifference. But his actions speak louder than his words. He allows Goku to challenge him. He shares his food, his time, and even his trust. For a god of destruction who has the right to judge and eliminate everything, this is more than respect, it is almost affection. The relationship between Beerus and Goku transcends that of master and apprentice or occasional adversaries. It represents the bridge between the divine and the human, between fear and empathy. It is the recognition that sometimes a mortal can teach a god something. Even though he lost that first battle, Goku emerged victorious in a much deeper way, winning the admiration of a being who believed himself to be beyond the understanding and emotion of mere mortals. This complexity that surrounds Beerus's respect for Goku becomes even more evident when observing his actions throughout the story. Despite all his destructive posture and the countless threats to annihilate the Earth, Beerus never went beyond his intention. On several occasions, he had reasons and even formal justifications for eradicating the planet, whether due to Vegeta's insolence on one occasion, the food that was spilled by Majin Buu, or the frustration of seeing events unfolding beyond his control. But on each of these occasions, he backed down, officially because of the food, but that excuse no longer convinces anyone. The truth behind the words and the harsh facade of the god of destruction is that Beerus has developed a veiled admiration for Goku. He doesn't want to admit it because that would be giving up his position of absolute authority, but his actions reveal everything. Beerus never dared to touch Goku, even when he provoked him. Even when Goku disrespected him with his usual innocence, the god of destruction would only growl. Because deep down, he saw in that Saiyan something that no other mortal had ever shown him: authenticity and freedom. Ever since Goku refused, at the beginning of Dragon Ball Super, Whis' proposal to become a new god of destruction, or at least a candidate, Beerus had already realized that he was dealing with someone different. Goku, even though he had the potential to follow that path, had no interest in destroying or judging others. His only desire was to fight and surpass himself. And that is precisely why Beerus came to respect him. Goku does not want to be like him. Goku wants to be himself, free from divine chains and cosmic duties. This refusal is repeated later on, during the Superhero Saga. When Beerus and Whis watch the events with the Red Ribbon, Broly, and the new androids of Capsule Corporation, there is a moment of rare honesty. Beerus looks at Goku and says, with that lazy but sincere half-smile, that if he surpasses him, he could take his place as god of destruction. It was not a threat, nor a challenge, it was almost a respectful invitation. The speech did not come from an arrogant god, it came from a warrior who finally saw another worthy of his level. And once again, Goku refused, without hesitation, without doubt, not because he couldn't, but because he didn't want to. For many, this decision might seem foolish. After all, the power of a god of destruction is immeasurable. But for Beerus, this refusal said it all. It was the definitive proof that Goku was not driven by ambition. He is what he is, a free spirit. And it is precisely this freedom that makes him so dangerous, so powerful, and above all, so respectable. Beerus, who spent millennia dealing with flattering beings, fearful gods, and crawling mortals, found in Goku someone who speaks to him as an equal, who does not bow down, does not get intimidated, and at the same time does not disrespect him out of malice. This balance is rare, perhaps unique, and for this reason he spares him, not only Goku but everything that revolves around him. Earth is no longer just a planet with good food, it is the home of the one who made Beerus feel something beyond destruction, admiration. Even in critical situations, such as during the Tournament of Power or in the threats brought by Moro, Granola, and Gas, Beerus kept his distance, not out of disinterest but because he knew Goku was there. And with him, there was a chance. Beerus began to trust Goku more than he would trust any Kaioshin or even the other gods of destruction. And that is significant. A god of destruction who entrusts the stability of his universe to a simple Saiyan. This silent respect also explains why Beerus never tried to kill Goku, not even during the most intense training sessions. He could have. At various times, Goku was vulnerable. But Beerus knew that killing Goku would mean losing the only true spark of evolution he had ever seen blossom among mortals. A rare diamond in a universe full of dust. Goku, with all his simplicity, became the pillar of something that not even the gods could build. The possibility that absolute power can coexist with humility. Whis, of course, realized this before anyone else. That's why he invested so much in Goku and even Vegeta. But Beerus, even though he was more reserved and proud, also allowed himself to be touched. Today, he watches from afar, laughs sarcastically, slaps Goku on the head, and feigns irritation. But he already knows that the legacy of destruction he carries on his shoulders has a counterbalance. And this counterbalance is a warrior with a pure heart, who never wanted to be a god, but who, ironically, became more divine than many gods. Deep down, Beerus understands that Goku poses a threat to his position, not because he wants to take it, but because he can surpass it without wanting to. And that is what fascinates him. That is what holds him captivated. Goku desires nothing more than to fight. And that purity, that clarity of purpose, is something that not even gods can have. That is why Beerus's respect is not just for power, but for the man who dares to be himself before the universe. Perhaps one day Goku will truly surpass him, not just in power but in wisdom. And Beerus, instead of fearing that day, seems to await it with contained anticipation. Because when that moment comes, Beerus will know that he will have fulfilled his role, not to destroy, but to witness the emergence of something greater than himself. And it all began with a fight between a god and a warrior with a pure heart. A fight that Goku lost, but that deep down made him the winner in the most honorable way possible, earning the respect of a god of destruction. When Goku finally awakened his Ultra Instinct during the battle against Jiren, something changed forever in Beerus' eyes. Until then, he had always seen Goku as a promise, a mortal with unmatched potential. But at that moment, when Goku shone with a pure silver aura, dancing between attacks with divine lightness, Beerus could no longer deny it. This was not just a warrior. Goku was entering the territory of the gods and on his own merit. The respect that already existed transformed into something greater: trust. This trust became even clearer after the end of the Tournament of Power. Beerus, who was never one to praise, simply watched in silence, but with a look on his face that he had never shown before, a mixture of pride and relief. He knew what Ultra Instinct meant. It was a technique that not all gods mastered. It was proof that Goku not only had power, but also enough spirit and discipline to reach a level beyond emotions, ego, and pride, a state that Beerus himself deeply respected. From that moment on, Beerus began to behave differently when it came to Goku. When other gods or entities tried to belittle Saiyan or accused him of being irresponsible, Beerus would take a more protective stance. He knew that Goku might seem reckless, but he also knew the essence of that warrior. Beerus began to understand that Goku was the last line of defense, not only for Earth, but for the very balance of Universe 7, perhaps even more than he was. That's why, even in moments of tension with the High Priest or when the other gods of destruction mocked Goku, Beerus no longer laughed along. He remained silent or at times even looked at them with disapproval. He didn't need to justify Goku. His deeds spoke for themselves. But there was a clear sign there in every restrained gesture, in every sentence cut in half, that Beerus would not let anyone diminish who Goku had become. That, coming from a god of destruction, was something extremely rare. The most symbolic thing about all this is perhaps the fact that Beerus, who had never allowed himself to be attached to anything or anyone, began to act more patiently with Goku. He, who used to get irritated by any detail or delay, now waited. He, who threatened to blow up the earth for any mistake, now simply shrugged his shoulders and watched. Because he knows, if Goku is okay, the universe will be too. This silent trust says much more than 1,000 words. Seeing Beerus trust Goku, not out of duty but out of admiration, is one of the most remarkable moments in the recent history of Dragon Ball Super. It is the meeting of two extremes, the absolute destroyer and the warrior of freedom. And in the midst of all this, a genuine relationship is born, not of master and disciple, nor of God and servant, but of equals, of beings who deeply respect each other because they see in each other the reflection of something that transcends the limits of power. This relationship built between Beerus and Goku, based not on hierarchy, but on mutual respect, is one of the most profound elements of Dragon Ball Super. It shows how much Goku influenced even the most static entities in the universe, changing deeply rooted views with his authenticity alone. Beerus, the god who judged based on fear and destructive instinct, began to see value in compassion, perseverance, and the will to protect, all of which are represented by Goku. This influence is not declared, but it is felt in every look and every silence Beerus has in the face of Saiyan's actions. The very fact that Beerus allows Goku to train under Whis' tutelage and even encourages this training shows how much he believes in that warrior's potential. He could have felt threatened, as many gods would feel when faced with a mortal who reaches such high levels, but no. Beerus saw in Goku an opportunity for growth, for learning, and perhaps even for redemption, for the role he himself has held for ages, and that's what makes it all so special. Goku's journey not only transforms him, but also those around him, even a god of destruction. In the end, what we see is more than an alliance of convenience. It's a mutual admiration, built on battles, defeats, and overcoming. Goku, even without meaning to, changed Beerus. And Beerus, even trying to hide it, has never been the same since he met the pure-hearted Saiyan. This silent, firm, and increasingly evident bond is one of the emotional pillars that make the new Dragon Ball universe so powerful, because deep down, even a god can bow before the greatness of a truly free spirit. But comment on what you thought of all this, and don't forget to like. Thank you very much for all your support, and see you next time.